around it is impossible to do a new large language model, it's simply prohibitively expensive, were false. And I think we're seeing the ability to for more innovation around this sector coming up very rapidly. And I would urge this country to do more on that sector as well. We've yet to see something like Olmo 3 appear in the UK, and there is absolutely no reason I can see why that shouldn't have happened already.
Should the government be doing something to encourage those sort of open source models to take place here?
Yeah, I absolutely believe so, and I think this is where there is an urgent need for an intervention at a significant level, both in terms of the technology that sits on it and the use cases that enable that large language model. As Google and others have shown, it's not just about having a piece of technology, it's what you can produce with that piece of technology that can inspire other people to create with it. You know, as I go back to the Google Books versus Authors Guild case, it is not a commonly referenced case. Largely my personal view is because you couldn't see what was going on. But over the last couple of years, as we've started to see image generation, video generation coming out, people have said, this looks like Mickey Mouse, doesn't it? And it's presented a very visible issue for it. So to me, it's not only a question of building the technology, but to provide that technology for a particular industrial sector. And I would urge that that's the creative sector, to be able to showcase what it can do. And by the way, what we can do as a country. We are an astonishingly powerful, creative country, you know, and human data is vital for this. If we can have something that can showcase that and support our creative industries, I'd back it 100%.
Thank you very much indeed.
Before we leave the question of transparency, there have been concerns raised with me and members of the committee about the issues that are raised around X and XAI and Grok. And it goes back to this question about being ready to reveal what training data has been used by AI models. Can you, Roxanne, for Google, give assurances that you know exactly what material goes into the training of your models, especially those that are offered to the public sector?
Thank you for the question, Chair. So when it comes to training the models, we need, as I said, to train on a huge amount of data. It is not just that you want high quality data, you need the good, the bad, and in cases the ugly as well. So for example, if you are training the model to be safe, you need to show it what is harmful. If you are training a model to tackle spam, it needs to be able to analyze spam. But you need to have the safeguards that it learns from it or analyzes this information, but then doesn't seek to produce that content. And there, we take that commitment incredibly seriously. This is not the sort of content that we want to see on our platform. When we have been designing our tools, we've invested in safety right from the get-go. We have very strict policies, but we also have guardrails to ensure that the type of problematic outputs, such as violent, offensive, or sexually explicit content, is not shared and generated.
If then your models are ranging over the bad as well as the good, as you've touched on, how is the content of your training data detailed and listed out? And do you share that information? Do you share it with the UK Safety AI Institute?
I would need to, I know that we publish AI model cards. I would need to go back and check who we shared that with. So I will report back to the committee.
Okay, I think that would be helpful. Can we come to Baroness Healy's questions?
Okay. Thanks very much. The committee is very interested in the question of licensing, and that's what I want to return to now, because we've heard that one of the main obstacles to the development of a licensing market is a lack of willingness to engage from AI companies, and I'm just wondering what your view on that is. Is that a fair comment, or is it because you're waiting to see what the outcome of the government's consultation is? So if I may start with Ms. Carter.
Thank you for the question. We have a long track record of doing licensing deals and seeking commercial partnerships with the UK creative industries. So whether or not you're looking at YouTube, where we license for for use on the platform. We also license directly with partners, but also with PRS. We have deals with Lyric Finder on search. We have, for News Showcase, over 280 publications that we cover through that scaled solution. We license for content. I think this comes to what are we licensing for? And what we discussed at the beginning, we don't believe that we need a license to train. But we are doing licenses for access. And we are seeing that more and more, so we've done deals, we've just rolled out an AI pilot with news organisations. The Guardian is part of that, and that's something that we're keen to roll out to more news publishers over the coming months. But we've also done deals, for example, with Bloomsbury, with Imperial, where we want to make sure that we have specific UK content included into the training of AI models. So these deals are being done. I, again, would say that having a text and data mining exception gives the clarity over what we're paying for, and I think that would turbocharge more of these commercial deals being done.
Thank you. And Mr. Gadney, I'd be interested in your view, because you're obviously coming from a different perspective in terms of the smaller AI companies and your relationship with the creative sector.
Thank you for the question. So I first started licensing creative works for digital media in the mid-90s when, as I mentioned, I was head of digital for Penguin Books. And so the specific case was we wanted to license, I think, 10 30-second music clips for a CD-ROM database for music. At that point, we were charged, I believe, or quoted £250,000 in that moment in time, which, if I extrapolate today, is around £600,000 for 10 30-second clips. In essence, that was a no in terms of the license that we wanted that we sought. More recently, we developed a video game adaptation of John Wyndham's book, The Kraken Wakes. We licensed the content for that as an adaptation and went through the appropriate channels. That took over a year to secure the license for that particular instance. And we've been tracking this for quite some period of time, fairly obviously. To my mind, there are two sides to the coin. One is the large-scale licensing that your question to Google implies. The other one is a license for use in creative and specific instances. From that, I would say that my count is that the creative industries who look after the creators, and remember, we're very creator-centric. We want to see the creators being remunerated appropriately and beneficially. And it is important to say that I think that the industries, the labels, the publishers, the agents that exist to monetize the works have not done a good job in keeping up with technological innovation. It's their job to innovate the ways in which they can benefit the creators who they represent. I would not advocate them preferring protection and blocking rather than engagement and experimentation. Historically, technologically, that has not worked for the creative sectors, and it's not worked for the creators. As we move into an economy now which is largely a creator economy, so-called creator economy, and I note that 1 in 4, research says that 1 in 4 people in the UK identify as creators. This is a significant movement. It is very important that the creative industries and the creators respond to this and engage with this process. I note that our international AI competitors are on the track already. They're in the stadium and running laps. It does feel, in the current process of this debate, like this country cannot decide whether to enter the stadium at all. If AI is seen as a productivity growth engine, we need leadership to be more decisive, pragmatic, and creative in their thinking, seeking to grow and support the creative sectors as they innovate into this sector.
Thank you. Well, following on from that, I mean, what specific steps should the government and regulators take to help create a coherent and sustainable licensing environment? And I'm also interested in your view on the government's proposal on the Creative Content Exchange. Do you think that's something that's worth looking at?
This me.
You, Mr. Gadney, sorry.
Thank you. We engaged at the beginning with, under the umbrella of CoStar, the government-funded research initiative, which has pulled together a proposal called ACCT, which is looking at a transparency It stands for Access, Control, Consent, Compensation and Transparency Technology Framework that, as you were referencing, is blockchain enabled, so supports the sort of flexibility, fluidity and speed at which these sorts of licensing agreements need to happen. I note also that the very nature of content, what we've talked about a lot today, is quite, so far has been quite monolithic. There is a work and that is licensed for a particular purpose. The nature of content at the moment is much faster than that, much more playful. There's a lot of modding of taking one piece of content and moving it into another at light speed. So for that particular piece, we engaged with that organisation, which again was a cross-sector and technological proposal, and this has been tabled with DCMS since Q2 last year and could be developed, implemented and leveraged by the AI companies that you referred to. So my proposal would be down those tracks to have something that we can launch, test in the market.
Okay, and Ms. Carter, I mean, what do you think the role of the government regulators should take in order to increase the access for AI companies?
So here I would like to take a step back and just say the UK is a hugely significant market for us. It's been home for Google for 20 years, and we've just announced a $5 billion investment that will span over 2 years, $1 billion of which goes to create a new data centre. But having an enabling copyright framework is an important factor in this. And so for us, having a text and data mining exception that builds on the non-commercial one that already exists in the UK to a commercial is quite an important feature that we would like to see adopted by the Parliament. When it comes to the creative content exchange, I think these sorts of mechanisms can be helpful. I think that they can be very useful in terms of pooling together some of the smaller creators. Again, we'd like to see more details. I think it would, again, if you're asking an entity to map out and try and put a price tag on every single piece of content on the internet, that's a challenge. But I think if you are pulling this together to reach voluntary agreements so that you get the smaller players to come to the market as well, I think that could be very useful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Given what you've just mentioned, Ms. Carter, about the investment, I want to ask you how important are the investment in the UK that you mentioned, the $5 billion figure, how important are different factors in that decision? Obviously, we want to see in this, we want to see the development of continually of high quality human created content, but we do have the UK copyright framework. What were the factors that governed or shaped your decisions about where to invest in and develop AI, balancing out? You mentioned a data center, for instance. What are the factors that balance out there?
So I appreciate that there will be many different considerations, but I come back to the copyright framework is important. It is an important factor. So trying to get that right balance, and I want to be at pains about the importance of getting the balance right. I mentioned at the beginning, the creative industries is incredibly important to Google, and we see them as a partner. So we want to make sure that we get that balance of ensuring they can continue to thrive and flourish, as well as allowing AI innovation to take off in the UK. So getting that balanced copyright framework is a top consideration for us.
Yeah, I did read out to you the comments that were made to us by witnesses that described Google as a bad actor, that talked about you taking unfair advantages in the market. It's a curious thing for you to say how much you value the creative sector at the same time as you were viewed in that way, in taking an unfair advantage in your search and crawler, and not paying for training data. How do you? I come back to how do you answer those? Because it's great to talk about partnership, but I think to the creative sector there doesn't look to be much partnership in that sort of behaviour.
So if I may, I think the comment of bad actor came from I may have this correct from the representative of Cloudflare.
No, it wasn't.
Was it not?
No, it wasn't. No.
Okay. So I don't believe that we are being a bad actor. I think that we are, like I said, we partner with the industry. We're very keen to develop and grow AI tools, but at the same time, the long tail of human creativity on the web matters. And so that is something that we are constantly striving to deliver on. Like we discussed, we're doing deals. Those deals, we've done pilots. Those will be rolled out, and we continue to do more deals. So I disagree with the framing of Google being a bad actor.
I think it's a combination of the not paying, because I think we're juggling all the questions that we've asked you on licensing, trying to develop a licensing market, but everything hinges on, in many ways, on this remuneration question and being prepared to pay for use of data for training. And it was very strongly put to us that if Google won't pay, and you're a big player in this market, why should other people play? So there's a leadership role there. So I just reflect back to you that it comes a bit hollow to talk about partnership with the creative sector if you're one of the players who take advantage and won't pay. So that's a point I can just leave you with, unless you want to make any more reflections on it.
Just to reiterate, it's not a question of that we won't pay. I think we need the certainty as to what we are paying for, and then those deals are already being done, and we will continue to do those deals.
Anything to add before we conclude?
I applaud that Roxanne and Google value the creative industries. My comment is it's not valued enough. Mm-hmm. Putting value on needs to be quantified, not just said. Secondly, the payment terms that we've started to see coming out of settlements are one-offs to creators through the Anthropic case. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. In a traditional licensing model where trailing revenues, you talk about the long tail, is not accepted as part of the deal. Any traditional licensing model usually has some form of revenue share or points associated with it. The one-off deal, which does not work, having spoken to writers, in my opinion, something needs to be more done around that long tail that we talk about. Secondly, we've seen a huge shift in revenues. We must acknowledge the shift in revenues from traditional media that we talk about. Revenue has shifted over 60% from linear to digital platforms over the last 10 years. Advertising income has shifted over 77% onto platforms like Google and Meta and other advertising things. That has had an enormous impact, as we know, on our national linear advertising networks. Those networks commission content. They do not look at the long tail, they look at the short tail. They look at commissioning, funding content that we talk about as copyright material, and they forget copyright for a second, because I believe it can be a cloak. The copyright debate can be a cloak towards actually what we're talking about, which is money. In a very un-British way, let's start talking about money, follow the money, look at where the money is going, who has it, and how much of that money is getting through to creators themselves. Those are the people who are creating the content. That is a healthy ecosystem. That as a nation is what we're good at. The trouble about supporting the long tail is it implies the content already has to exist. Who is funding the creation of that content? Yes, we can create now content at incredibly low cost. That's great. And there's an argument that we can democratize that content. That doesn't mean that people should not eat or have an unsustainable lifestyle simply as they have to then create this and rely on a long tail, which is substantially less than the existing model. So I would urge that as we're looking into this sort of model, we look at the money and we look at how we can support the creation of the content as well as the long tail remuneration for it.
Thank you very much. We started with a question of payment or revenue share, and we end on the same topic. Let's look at the money. Thank you both very much indeed. And we'll close the session there and just take a few moments before our next session starts. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.